Hey everybody, it's Comic Crack, and welcome to week 1 of the YouTube Value Stamp project. Every week, probably later Saturday night, I hope to do a video where I introduce this week's value stamps, and in the description box of each of those weeks will be who's involved, a direct link to their channel in case you don't know about them, in case you don't subscribe to them, or if you're outside our little community and you're discovering this video and you still want to print off a book yourself and follow along. Links to everybody who's involved that particular week. Down below you'll also see a link to an Imgur site I've set up, user account. It's imgur.com/user/comiccrack, and Comic Crack is all one word. And that's where I'll be hosting each individual stamp, and the first thing that's going to be hosted there is a scan of the value stamp book itself that I finished last night. So let's talk about the stamp book itself. If you follow me on Twitter, you've seen the photos of the completed artwork for it. I created it on legal size paper, which I believe is 8.5 by 14, I think that's correct. And I sort of took advantage of the actual Marvel value stamp book, the very first one. I did a Google search and found some nice images of it and sort of stole some ideas. Took a little bit of the wording, that sort of thing, use of exclamation marks, and then some of the actual, there's the Hulk and Spider-Man on the front as well too, and kind of stole that idea just to get a sense of a layout. So here is the front cover, or the outside, I guess, of the value stamp pamphlet slash book itself. Just a accordion folded to I think a really good size. A regular A4 piece of paper was a little too small as far as it made the individual pages too thin. I like the way when you see the interior stamps themselves, or the spaces for the stamps, they're 1.25 inches square, and I think that's a really good size. Again, now just because I've printed up on legal size paper and just because I've done it a certain size doesn't mean that you have to do that yourself. You can print it up as big or as small as you want. You can obviously not use this at all, and you can use your own drawings if you want to make your own book. I'm not here to stop you. I just have this on offer to everybody who wants to collect the stamps. So I went with a checklist in the middle as a last minute kind of decision. It was very, very last minute actually, and it was partially due to the fact of this here. So here's the interior of the stamp book itself. I have a new setup trying out here. My phone is behind the camera in hopes of getting a look at the screen there. In each of the squares I've written the person's name, the YouTuber's name, and then there's a number underneath. And of course, when you put your stamps in, you will be putting the picture in over top of their name. So the reason for the checklist becomes apparent. You can still see who's who. If you want, you can transfer the numbers underneath the boxes if you want, so you have reference later on. But it's pretty straightforward: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, etc. And again, kind of mimicked the wording inside. YouTube value stamps number 1 to 6, individual weeks, what dates the weeks are, as far as when the videos will be presented. And then this is a look at the final one. So I had to go to Staples today to scan the images. Our scanner is too small for legal sized paper, so I went to Staples and just got them to scan this for me. And here's a look at what the finished booklet looks like when it's all printed up on both sides. So it just becomes a, sorry, let me touch that there, just a nice one sheet accordion folded flyer. What I intend to do with mine is do the old do the old tea bagging trick, just soaking a tea bag and then discoloring a piece of the legal size paper to brown it and give it some age and some wear, and then print out a copy myself, and I'll probably hand color mine in as well, with pencil crayons or whatever, color in the pictures, maybe color in some of the backgrounds and that sort of thing, add a little more character to it. It is all black and white on purpose. I didn't do it in color, mainly because I wanted to have the booklet itself in black and white, but also we don't have a color printer here at home. We have a color printer, we don't have any ink cartridges, and they're really expensive, so black and white is just easier for me to do. That said, that does not mean that you have to do your stamps in black and white. You can do yours in color, you can do yours in 3D if you want, you can do whatever the hell you want to your individual stamps. It'll just mean another trip for me to Staples or something to print off the individual stamps, which I don't mind. I have no problem with. So there you go. So we will have a quick look at week 1. In week 1 is 6 wonderful individuals. It's an interesting week. 4 out of 6 of these are people that, when I first came to YouTube, were some of the very early discoveries as far as this comic book community. Specifically, Sleepy Reader, Damien. Sleepy Reader and Ghost Critic were 2 guys that I found really early on. I'm not sure who I discovered first, actually. It might have been Ghost Critic that led me into this whole YouTube comic book community world, period. But they were 2 people that I watched religiously and watched a lot of their back catalog of videos right off the top, and then from there started discovering other people. But that doesn't take anything away from Phil, Scott, or Tony. I've said it before, when I had started, Tony was kind of in charge of a little art project where he was doing a drawing of a bunch of YouTubers as superheroes and putting them together on a page and mailing out those pages to people, and I thought that was just such a great idea, and as I've said, that's something that really sparked this whole project. It's thanks to Tony that this is in existence. Just because I love the idea of a community art project. I love art in general, and the idea of having a booklet that's going to be filled with everybody's art, no matter what quality they consider their talents at. I think it's just going to be a really fantastic looking book when it's all said and done. Scott, my fellow knucklehead, you may all know, I'm sure you all know him. Another guy that I discovered early on as well, and he had a lot of just great hangouts. I remember seeing him hanging out with Howler Mouse doing their weekly chat show. He was on the round table, and just a really nice guy, really great guy. He's recently come back into the fold, and as soon as I saw him back, it without a moment's hesitation to ask him to be involved. And knowing what I know about what people are contributing, I'm really excited to see what Scott's looks like. I'm excited to see what everybody's looks like, but I have a feeling Scott's is going to be something really extra special. I'm excited about it. And then of course Phil is another guy through like the round table. Once I discovered the round table discussions, I believe at that time he was hosting it. I believe it was his. I don't know. I wouldn't want to say and assume things. My idea was that when I started, he was the guy who was putting together the round table discussions. So he was somebody that I discovered early on in my YouTube viewing as well. And then LahRasa is, I remember when she started in YouTube, and we became kind of quick friends, you know, messaging here and there, and then that led to kind of hangouts in the recent year or so, possibly. We did some trading back and forth. I sent her some comics, she sent me some comics. Really great woman. Excited to have her as well, especially like her art talent is just extraordinary if you've seen her videos. And then last and certainly not least is jonanjello, John, who I just saw a video today. He was kind of doing an introduction to him and his world and his channel as part of this value stamp project. He's somebody that I know through the gaming side of my internet life. He sold me my very first Aries magazines. He turned me on to mushroom eaters, and I think it was through Earl Grey, possibly, that I just not discovered. I guess Earl Grey kind of put forth John's channel to me, and through that we just had a connection and got in touch through Board Game Geek, and we've kept in touch ever since then. Really great guy, and he's also one of the reasons why I think maybe doing a weekly thing with links. He's not as familiar with people in the comic book world. He does read comics and graphic novels occasionally, but gaming is more his thing. So I know there was a lot of people just involved in this that he just wasn't aware of, and that's exciting to me, just opening up our world to everybody else and having people contributing who aren't necessarily staples of the comic book side of the YouTubes. So that's it. That's our first week, and April 3rd to April 9th. So next week I will have a video again. I don't know if I said it actually. Let me just backtrack 1 second. You'll see at the front here 98%. When I printed off the sheet itself, I didn't leave enough of a border around the edge of the artwork or the write-up. So I had to play around with sizing, and what seemed to work the best was printing off the front side, I guess we'll call it, at 98%. And then the interior, the weeks, was just at 100%. I just printed off at 100%, and that allowed like the creases to be nice and centered between the weeks spaces, and it just, I think it looks better. So that's what that 98% and 100% mean that you've maybe seen and wondering. So just so when you're printing it off yourself from a PDF, front page at 98%, interior page at 100% on a legal size piece of paper, and you should be fine. I think that's it. I will, as I said, I'll keep a link to the Imgur site, and I will now go and just upload the value stamp booklet to the site, so it'll be available when this video comes up, and it should be there. If you have any problems, please feel free to get in touch with me. Those of you who haven't gotten in touch yet, that are involved in the project itself, there's not many of you. Most of you I've talked to already. Just please make sure that you send me an email so we can establish a connection. If you haven't heard back from me and you have sent an email, that means that you spelt my name wrong. So just please double check the spelling of my first name, T-E-R-E-N-C-E. There's only one R, there's no A's. I know it's a pain in the ass, trust me. I've had to deal with it my entire life. And that's usually what happens, is people just spell my first name wrong, so I don't get the email. The other thing that I will say is, if you're not presenting until, say, week 3 and your drawing is done, your stamp is done, feel free to send it to me. There's no, you don't have to wait until your week to send me the file. I can always keep them on the computer and upload them when you present your video. When you do post your video where you unveil your stamp, just send me a message and make sure that I'm aware, so that I can make sure that your stamp gets uploaded to the Imgur site, so people seeing your video can go and immediately get the stamp. Maybe send me a video as you're uploading it still, after you filmed it, or even just before you film it, just so I'm aware, and I'll make sure to try to time it out so the stamps are available for everybody. I think that's it, and Lillian is up. So thanks very much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next week. And have fun with the stamp project, everybody involved. Even if you're not involved, please feel free to follow along with us and discover channels, print up your own book, and collect the stamps as we go through the month of April. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll talk to you.